Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be organizing Everdell, the complete collection, designed by James A. Wilson and published by Starling Games. This is a fully sleeved copy of the game that's organized in the complete collection big ol' box of storage. It's got no lid lift and is organized to help facilitate gameplay as well as get the game set up and cleaned up as soon as possible. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow, and for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's get started organizing Everdell, the complete collection. Before we begin, I want to quickly talk about the stickers that come in the big ol' box of storage. Now, I haven't committed yet to stickering our copy of Everdell, as I really love the aesthetic of the wooden meeples in the game. So if you're wondering why none of our components are stickered, it's because they're right here and I haven't put them on yet. So that's one thing to consider. Go ahead and sticker your game if you'd like to. With the stickers out of the way, let's go ahead and rotate our box here so that we can see a little bit more clearly inside, and we'll lift off the lid, and inside you'll see that we have the rulebooks for the game on top. Now, the core game and all of the expansions have their own separate rulebooks, but with the big old box of storage, we've gone ahead and downsized, as now we just have this Gilded book here, which is going to have all of your rules, setup, and all of the expansion content inside, including solo modes, and then the specific cards, their effects, and the sets that they're from in the archive here. So it'll go ahead and detail all of that information for you. So now, instead of having all of these smaller rulebooks, you'll just have two larger rulebooks here. We'll put them to the side for now. Underneath the rulebooks, we'll have two distinct sections. You'll have your smaller boxes on the right here, and then your larger boxes on the left. Let's go ahead and start on this right side here with our smaller boxes. First off, we'll take this side here, and this is essentially your landmark tray for the Pearlbrook expansion, as well as your open signs if you're deciding to use those. So these open signs are going to indicate which spaces can be accessed by other players, and when they're used, you'll simply flip them into their closed side. They have indents here on the sides, like so, and if you'd like to, you can pause the video so you can see exactly where these different landmarks as well as the open signs go. There is one little tricky one here, the 10. It does like to jump out of its place, but it is supposed to sit something like this. So when they're all done, they should be affixed like so, with your 15, 25, 20, and 10 for the Pearlbrook expansion landmarks, and then all of your open and closed signs like so. Continuing on the right side here, you're actually never going to take this out of the box. This is your card tray. We'll lift off this plastic lid here, and inside you'll see that we have all of our standard size cards here, our mini cards, and then tokens, as well as little cardboard tiles that you'll be placing onto the main game board. Now's a good time to talk about the sleeves that we use for the game. For the standard size cards, we use the Ultra Pro Pro Matte Deck Protector sleeves. I really like the way that they handle and shuffle, and they allow you to see the artwork on the back of your card still, even while having that nice matte finish. And then for the smaller sleeves, we use the Everdell size card sleeves. These are perfect because the Everdell cards are a little bit shorter than normal cards. They're 44 by 63 millimeter. I'll leave links in the description of the video for anything that I talk about here, as well as the appropriate card count that you'll need for your standard size cards, as well as your mini Everdell card sleeves. On this right side of the tray, we'll have all of our standard size cards separated by these dividers. For example, your main deck is going to be first, and they're going to have just the current deck of cards that you are using. As most of the expansions do not really work that well when you mix them together, you're going to want to separate them at the end of each game, and so you'll have different tabs here in order to organize them so that you can clearly tell, oh, these are the expansion cards for that set. Let's go ahead and shuffle them into this main deck of cards here. To make the most use of the space in the insert for sleeved cards, we have them separated into two large sections here, with all of our main deck cards, our extra cards, our Rugwort cards, our Pearlbrook cards, and our Spirecrest cards in this first main section, followed by our Nightweave's Lair cards, our Through Every Season cards, our Corinne Evertree cards, including the ones from the big old box of storage with alternate art, our Newleaf cards, and lastly, our Legends cards. Those will be all of your standard size cards in these two big sections here. Much like the standard size cards, you're going to have your small Everdell size cards here in the upper left section. And this is going to have all of your base game cards, Bellfaire cards, Pearlbrook cards, player power cards, Newleaf cards, visitor cards, and Spirecrest cards. You can also place any relevant reference cards inside of these small sections at the front of the dividers in case you'll need them. For example, we have some special rules for compatibility between the printings, where the harvesters and the husbands are interchangeable for rules purposes, as well as that the gatherer and the wife are also interchangeable for rules purposes. Let's go ahead and return those cards to their section, and then we'll move on and start talking about these cardboard tokens. In this middle section, we have all of our every game tokens. You're going to be using these for your basic events for collecting a certain number of icons in the game. You'll put these these out onto that main game board. Underneath our every game tokens, we have our Spirecrest Draw Bag. This is so that you can randomly choose the goal tiles for your journey spaces for the Spirecrest expansion. You're going to be putting out a number of these onto that journey area so that you can get some additional scoring during the end of the game. You put them in the bag, shuffle them up, and then draw them out one at a time. I use a variety of bags for these random draw tokens. You can use the microfiber bags from BGG, or these are from Amazon. I'll leave links in the description once again for the draw bags that I use. Underneath our random draw bag for Spirecrest, you're also going to have your starting journey tiles. You'll give one of these to each player, and you can leave the rest in the box if you're playing with that Spirecrest expansion. Let's return those starting journey tiles, our random draw bag, and then lastly, all of our basic events on top. In this bottom tray, you'll have a variety of tiles that are used for several different expansions with modular setups or additional tokens required. First off, for the Bellfaire expansion, you're going to have your trade tiles. You're also going to have the new event, the Flower Festival, and then lastly, you'll have those endgame scoring objectives here. Go ahead and grab what you need for each game. And to the side of your Bellfaire components, you'll have your Newleaf components, 2 new event tiles, as well as your ticket tiles. You'll give one of these to each player and leave the rest in the box. Let's return our cardboard tokens, and that's everything inside of our card tray there. So make sure that you have that larger side on the right side, because that's where your standard size cards are going to go. So we'll just place that in like so, and everything is nice and snug, not moving around. Now that we've finished the right side here and all of our small boxes, let's move on to the larger boxes on the left. First off, we have our box containing our Evertree. We'll lift off this plastic lid here, and you'll see that we have the Evertree broken up into pieces. You'll assemble this when you're ready to play with it, or if you're deciding not to use it, you can just leave it inside. So it's separated with all the different pieces here, like so, and then you've got the large piece as well as the legs of the tree here. So that makes up that trunk that's going to also serve as the stack of cards that you'll be able to draw from. So if you're deciding to assemble it, you'll need to do so, and then you can remove this large plastic piece here and get access to all of your different meeples in the game. So these are going to be all of the different characters that you can play as. Not only will you include their standard meeples, but you'll also include the pieces from the different expansions inside as well. You've got your Frog Ambassador as well as your Wanderer for your journey. So those will all be in that section, all based on color and the different animal types. In addition, if you have a character that comes with specific tokens, like the axolotl here has tokens that are specific to them, you'll make sure to put them in here if you decide to play with those player powers. And lastly, you'll have all of your Spirecrest big Animeeples in here with their new saddles affixed. The original Spirecrest expansion had these plastic saddles that you're going to be using for your pieces, but they were replaced in the big old box of storage for these rubber saddles. These are going to make it so it's a little bit easier to put them onto your characters. You'll simply push the sides like so that way you have those little teeth that are going to attach onto the moose. So when you're finished, it should look something like this. And that way you can simply slide in your Animeeple like so, and then check it out. You've got a snail riding a moose. What a time to be alive. So that's everything in the meeple container. Let's now go ahead and go into the rest of this orange box here with all of your resources for the game. We'll lift off this plastic lid like so, and you'll see that we have all of the deluxe upgraded storage containers in here that store all of your different resources for the game. First off, we have our twig barge like so. You're going to put this in that water area, and generally when we play the game, we place the resources by the spaces that create those resources. For example, the twig barge by the space that's going to produce all of the sticks in the upper left section of the board. So that's our twig barge, and I'm not going to take out the rest of the resource containers here, but I will go through which each of them store. So first off, we have this yellow basket here that's going to store all of the berries. We have all of your yellow visitor tokens. You're only actually going to need 3 of these for each player, so I actually don't even recommend that you take this out of the box because you will never actually be taking from this pool. The other thing you have are the standard visitors. You do want to put this one on the table so that people can grab it. You got your 1, 3, and 6 coins, and then you also have your pebbles and your pearls for the Pearbrook expansion, and then your resin pieces in this nice stump. And lastly, you have these little leaves here, and these are going to be used to hold your special events. The cards actually fit into this area in the middle, and they'll be able to stand up so that if you do put them onto the Evertree, you'll be able to see them nice and clearly. So that's all of the resources in their bins here. In this upper left section, we'll have a variety of components. Starting off with our sealed tokens, these are going to be used if you're using that module from the Newleaf expansion. You'll need just 1 per player. You can leave the rest in the box here. And next up, we have our For Everyone expansion. This is just a set of replacement cards that is going to update your game to the newer editions, where the harvesters replace the husbands and the gatherers replace the wives. So if you'd like to, you can have these on hand, and this expansion also gives you the opportunity to write names on your own harvesters and gatherers, and so you'll be able to do that in here. To the right of our promo pack, we'll have all of your solo components. Starting off with our 2 different dice, you've got your standard 8-sided die, but if you're deciding to play with the Newleaf expansion, there'll be more cards to pick, so you'll be using this 12-sided die. And then you'll have all of the Nightweave components if you're deciding to integrate the new solo mode from the Mistwood expansion. And lastly, we've got a pencil in order to track our score at the end of the game, and then a silica gel packet for freshness. Let's go ahead and move that resource tray to the side. And underneath, you'll see that we have a variety of other components. First off, our Newleaf Draw Bag. This does come with the expansion. You'll be placing all of these tokens here inside. These are the different carts that are going to be coming that give you resources that you can pick from. Whenever you need to draw a new one, you'll just stick your hand into the bag, put one out onto that train area, and then when it's empty, you'll refill it with all of the discards. So I really love this. This is great. Another draw bag for those randomized tokens. Makes setup super easy because you don't need to make any piles or shuffle anything face down. To the left of the draw bag, we have our Scorepads for the game, as well as another silica gel packet for freshness. And lastly, we have our player boards for the game. On the top, we actually have the Nightweave player boards. You're going to be using those when you decide to integrate that expansion. And then you'll have your basic player boards. These are going to be able to help you organize your city, but mostly they're just there for looks. So you have all of those stored in this upper right section. Many of you eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed we didn't actually have the lid on for this section here. The reason we didn't have it on here is because the resource container actually keeps everything nice and snug. And by keeping the lid off, it's one less thing that we have to put on and take off and replace every time we play. It's sometimes hard to tell which lid goes to which section, and seeing as you're going to be reaching into this section pretty much every game, it's nice not to have to take it on and off every time and get it confused with other things. We find ourselves playing with the Newleaf expansion pretty often, so it's nice to be able to just reach in and grab it, as well as using the player boards here. People like having this artwork, and it just makes for a good experience. You can definitely leave the lid on if you'd like. It's totally up to you, but that's why we've decided to remove it. Let's move on to the last section and lift off that plastic tray, and you'll see that we have all of our game boards on the bottom here. Just like the last section, we've actually removed a large portion of the insert for this one. We've actually removed the entire plastic container for it, and I'll tell you why. It's mainly because it's a big nuisance. First off, you're going to have to take off the lid every single time that you decide to use it, and that can be kind of annoying because you'll have to go find it afterwards. But the main reason has to do with the way that you actually have to store the pieces inside. The insert instructs you to store the bottom section here as the Pearbrook expansion, then the Newleaf, then the Spirecrest, then the base game, and then Bellfaire on top. And frankly, that's just pretty dang annoying. What if you're not really playing with Bellfaire that much? Put it on the bottom. Why is it on top of the main game board? This makes it really hard for not only you to remember what order to stack things, but there's also specific grooves cut into here, so it's hard for other people to actually help you try to set up or put away the game. And I find that pretty annoying, and this really just does the same job by having them all down here. You're also able to store some additional tokens down here with their appropriate expansions, as you'll see in a second. As mentioned with the other plastic inserts, you can totally use it if you want to, but this is why we don't. Our new order for the boards is the base game board on the bottom like so, followed by the Newleaf expansion, as that one's getting played quite often. Then you'll have the Spirecrest, which is my personal favorite expansion, and then you'll have your Bellfaire board, and lastly, you have your Pearlbrook board. And to the right of the Pearlbrook board, you'll have your expansion overlays for Bellfaire, as well as for Pearlbrook, and you'll put those onto their appropriate spots on the game boards. And that's everything inside of our big old collector's box for the collector's edition of Everdell. Let's go ahead and pack it up. We'll start off with all of our game boards, our Pearlbrook board, and then our overlays for Pearlbrook, and then our Bellfaire overlay. We've got our Bellfaire expansion up next, followed by our Spirecrest expansion, our Newleaf expansion, and then our base game board. Once again, you can definitely sort those in any order that you see fit, whichever one you're going to be playing the most frequently, closer to the top. We'll place that gray tray on top of all of our boards, and inside we'll place all of your player boards and Nightweaver solo mode boards, followed by our Newleaf bag in that bottom right section here. We'll put in our score sheets as well as another silica gel packet for freshness. Our resource container will go on top of that. We'll make sure to fill it with its appropriate components, all of your resource containers back inside, a pencil for keeping score, another silica gel packet for freshness, all of our solo components, our Nightweave pieces, as well as our dice. And to the right of the seal tokens, all of our Everdell for Everyone promo cards. We'll put the lid on our resource container like so, followed by our meeple container on top. We'll place our Evertree container like so, followed by our Evertree itself. And when you place that plastic container on top, you'll put that triangle in the middle here so that way it matches up perfectly. We'll put all of our monuments as well as our open and close signs on the right side here, and finish it off with our archive as well as our Gilded book. And that is organizing Everdell, the complete collection. If you have any questions about what you saw here, please let me know down in the comments below. How do you organize your copy of Everdell, the complete collection? What's your favorite expansion for the game so far? What's your favorite critter card to play? What's your favorite building? Did you make any modifications to the insert like we did? Did you decide to sticker your game? We'd love to hear what you think. But thank you so much for watching. SideGame Strong.